Otherwise, we may not be able to dispose of the matter before you within the timelines that have been given at all. If I may very respectfully refer you to the Constitution, which my learned friend is relying on, and which he has been emphasized very much. Your Honor, if you look at Article 1, Article 1, sub-Article 1, says sovereignty of the people. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with his constitution. And 2, which is perhaps more important than what I've read to you, the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. It is now democratically elected representatives who are seized of this matter. And they cannot be controlled, or the issues that are before the court, before this select committee, cannot be washed or swept under the carpet by raising trivial objections at all. It's my humble submission that you overrule my learned friend. You don't have to waste time. And in doing so, you'll be guided by the able ruling that was delivered by our Speaker on 30th April 2024, which is before you. I don't wish to waste most of your time, or much of your time at all. I would prefer that we get on with the job so that we meet the timelines and we are able to proceed with the matter before you. Finally, I may point out that my learned friend, from what I can see, is trying really to buy time so that we do not finish this matter within the stipulated timelines we have been given. That's all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, out of curiosity, if indeed the minister is innocent, why is he worried about the witnesses? This is a matter of national interest, as my lawyer has said. If indeed you are innocent, Kenyans want to know. Could be someone is trying to bring witch hunt to the minister. Let us be allowed to bring each and everybody who will set him free. The jury is in the public. Bwana Minister, relax. Let Kenyans...
Honorable Amboka, we are just beginning the process, and please do not rush to the conclusion, and limit yourself to the time that we have given you. And may I also advise all the other parties to adhere to the time allocated during the hearing, and also the witnesses that should note that they cannot go outside time allocated to each party. Again, it is important to note that the witnesses' submission must fit within the time allocated. If we respect that, then we'll be able to conclude on time. Now, I would want to take this time to give the ruling as per the requests that both the parties made last evening. Honorable members, given the Constitution timeline within which the committee must conclude this process, the detailed rationale behind the decision on the preliminary issues and questions will be elucidated in the committee's final report. Having said this, on the preliminary issues that the affidavit is defective, we have overruled the preliminary objection, having looked at Article 152(7) of the Constitution and Standing Orders 47(4)A, 64, and 66. Number 2, it is noteworthy that it is the exclusive authority of the Speaker of the National Assembly to determine the question of admissibility of a proposed special motion for dismissal of Cabinet Secretary, a matter that was already determined. We are now at the stage of investigation by the committee, the question of admissibility having been determined by the Speaker. Number 3, consequently, I direct that committee shall proceed to hear the matter and discharge its mandate as required under Article 152(7) of the Constitution. Number 4, as stated earlier, we shall give a detailed and reasoned ruling in our report on this matter. The question, can we admit new evidence? Honorable members, on whether the mover can call before the committee witness whose statement were not initially part of the motion as passed by the House, it is notable that Standing Order 64 primarily concerns procedural matters and does not prescribe the specific evidence to be presented before the committee. Number 2, what is important is that these investigations by this committee should and will not go outside the allegations in the special motion. Number 3, consequently, the committee shall allow any party to invite witnesses or produce new evidence, provided that the evidence strictly relates to the allegations contained in the motion. Number 4, the committee will not entertain any witness or evidence that is not relevant to or that purports to introduce new allegations outside the allegations as passed by the National Assembly. Number 5, we shall give a detailed and reasoned ruling in our report on this matter. Can the committee summon the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Agriculture and the Managing Director for KELS Chemical Limited as requested by the sponsor of the motion? The response, Article 125 of the Constitution, Section 18 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, Standing Order 191, and our own rules of procedures gives power to this committee to summon any person to appear before it. Having said this, Honorable Wanami Wamboka should first provide the evidence for laying basis for the request so as to demonstrate the need for the exercise by the committee to summon the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Agriculture and the Managing Director for KELS Chemical Limited. The parties are accordingly guided. On referral of matters under consideration by the Select Committee, I urge all parties to restrain themselves from referring to the substance of the proceedings of the Select Committee before the committee has concluded and made up its report to the House. As per the adjustment of time, the committee has agreed that opening statement will take 40 minutes, cross-examination and the sponsor and the cabinet secretary we have given 60 minutes, and the rest of the witnesses 20 minutes. Closing statement, 1 hour. The parties are, as I said, the parties are accordingly guided, and we will proceed.
Much obliged, Your Honor.
Thank you. Opening statements by Honorable Wamboka, and you have 40 minutes, sorry. As I said, we have allocated 40 minutes, and please be guided by the clock on the...
Asante sana, Madam Mwenyekiti. Of my 40 minutes, I'll give some remarks, then I'll allow my advocate to say something about the same. This is a case of gross violations of the Constitution, gross misconduct, and ministerial responsibility. National agenda of this administration of William Ruto on food security is noble. And from the onset, I must say, we support the president because agriculture is the backbone. If the country is food secure, then you have a healthy nation. It is too critical a matter for this country to be jeopardized. Madam Chair, various violations meted out against innocent Kenyans through distribution of fake fertilizer, as we will be demonstrating to this noble committee. Consumer rights have been violated, and someone must be held accountable. Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock has got ahead. Who must take responsibility? In fact, in serious democracies, by now, the minister should have resigned. Honorable Committee. This is one of the flagship of Honorable William Ruto. And as I said, we support the president. And that is why I'll draw your attention to the voting in the House. Honorable Chair, it was bipartisan. It was bipartisan. That is how serious this matter is. I've looked at the responses from my good friend, and indeed is my friend, Mithika Linturi. There's a lawyer saying that says, I would wish that this should become this, so that I don't listen to what the Honorable Minister is trying to say. That, Honorable Chair, 149 members of Parliament, and indeed those who were in the House that day, will understand that there were more people. Cards were not working, and the Speaker ruled on this. 19 members, including the Honorable Nabina Bwera, my good uncle, the Honorable Mchomba, they did not vote. 19. 19 members of parliament who supported this motion and who were in the House did not vote. It should be understood that 24 members of parliament were out of the country, had petitioned the clerk of the National Assembly if they can vote virtually. 24. Those numbers are growing. It is incredibly unserious. Honestly, a whole National Assembly saying something is wrong. Something is wrong. And it will be very, whatever happens to this case, it will be very it will be not business as usual. Because that voting, it was a vote of no confidence to the minister. It has consequences. I would be keen to imagine how ambassadors will be dealing with it. Our good friends on high moral ground, the United States, the EU, of which we shall be appealing to them, that indeed the National Assembly has passed a vote of no confidence. In that alone, it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. And I think the minister has guts even to be here today. This motion is not about me. This motion is not about the National Assembly. I had some good friends in Meru saying we are targeted. No, we have very many good Merus, including my good friend, who is at times my lawyer. He's a good Meru. He's a good Meru. It's not about Merus. Merus are good people, and I want it to be understood in this committee. It is not about Kenya Kwanza. Honorable Chair, it's not about Azimio. It is Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi versus the Republic of Kenyan farmers and diaspora. I did indicate I come from a border town. Ugandans buy things from Kenya. Kenyans buy things from Uganda. My good sister would know this. Nahayo, the Iron Lady, would understand this. The Ugandans came and bought fertilizer from Kenya, subsidized. What should they do? What should they do? I have looked at the document submitted by my good friend Mithika Linturi, and it's nothing more than a love letter from a jilted lover. That these are grievous matters of national importance to be reduced to love matters. Ukiachwa hachika. Hachika. It is indeed unfair to keep dragging the good lady, my sister, Marianne, into these matters. She has a right kukukata, kukukubali. Allow her to proceed on with her life. Including the Honorable Chair, that it should be unfair that your private matters should keep coming up anytime serious matters are raised. The good lady should be left in peace because she has a life, she has a family, she has children, and she needs to move on. We shall speak. This is a select committee. We shall say that which we want to say and that which we think is important to this committee. I did indicate yesterday that very many people approached me to drop this motion. I refused. And in fact, I told one of them, I'm different from the Honorable Mithika Linturi. It should be understood, Honorable Chair, that the Honorable Mithika Linturi started a process such as this. This was going to be the second one in the new constitutional order. Had he been serious, he went ahead, he collected signatures, it was put on the order paper, his motion. What did he do? He went to Naivasha, was given money and love.
Chair.
That indeed it is a demonstration.
Chair, I have a point of order.
Point of order by
Yes.
Honorable.
We've made it very clear that any statements made by a witness, the sponsor, or the respondent must be substantiated. Allegations have been made about going to Naivasha, money being exchanged. Unfortunately, we do not have any substantiation on that. Let's not use this opportunity to malign one another. I think we should observe equal and we have to welcome.
Honorable Chair, it is indeed in public. It is indeed in National Assembly records that a motion to impeach one Anne Waiguru appeared on the order paper. It is indeed in records of the courts. In the divorce case of the Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi and Aldai Member of Parliament, Marianne Keitani, as to where the member...
Honorable Wamboka, I think you should limit yourself to the subject.
Well guided, Chair. That, Madam Chair, I'm a serious Kenyan. I had to do this, and I have done this. Those who don't know, I'm defined by Bayaya, Baala, Banyangali, and Watachoni clans. That definition, those sub-tribes cannot allow me to be bought, cannot allow me to be subverted. That is why we are here. It's because I'm serious, and I will die for the farmers of Kenya. The Honorable Minister has dragging me in dragging strangers in the name of my alleged affairs, which cannot negate the fact that innocent Kenyans are suffering. I would want to understand, by you saying that so and so is Jack's wife, is the honorable member's wife, how does that relate to the suffering of Kenyans? How does that relate? And if indeed honorable chair of Justice Committee is fair, is only seeing one side when we speak, why should the minister bring no, I'm reacting. It is in his submissions.
I don't want this committee to be turned, this investigation to be turned into love affair investigation. Please limit yourself to your motion.
Yes, Honorable Chair, but it must be noted and be on record that in his submissions.
Yeah, point of order by Honorable Rachel, Dr.
The Chair did not intend to interfere with statements that the Honorable Wamboka is making, but I would like to raise a matter on standing order 77 concerning the language that we use. And 77 says, all proceedings in the House shall be conducted in Kiswahili, English, or in Kenyan Sign Language. Twice, Honorable Chair, the Honorable Wamboka has mentioned words in a language that we did not understand, and I thought that he was going to translate so that we can understand. This may make us miss some of the information that you would like to tell us. So is it in order for him to use that language, which I'm not able to tell which language it is, because we are not able to understand that particular portion?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. What I meant is I would wish that my ears become my sitting apparatus. so that I cannot hear all this. That's what I meant. But well guided. Madam Chair, I've got one wife, which is public knowledge. This is not a forum to bequeath me with imaginary wives. And in any case, does it matter? I'm on this honorable chair because he brought it. If you look at his submissions, it's there.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order by Honorable Chair. I believe it is very important that if you make a ruling, the honorable member understands that you are directing him on what to confine himself on. And Honorable Chair, if someone disregards that ruling, then you should be able to also call them out of order.
Well guided. Well guided. Well guided. But just to note, this is not a divorce case. Madam Chair, we are discussing the conduct of Honorable Mithika Linturi, that we want him removed from the office. Out of this world, I was just imagining, when he was being interrogated to be minister, he said he has in excess of 30 cases in court. We are all Kenyans, members of parliament. Why him? Why him? Why him? We are speaking. We have a saying in Luya land. The hyena told the stone. You remember the case of J.M. Kariuki when they were investigating his death. Mwangale told his house. It's a house of records. The hyena told the stone that even if you keep quiet, you've heard me. Honorable Mithika Linturi, even if through the chair, even if you keep quiet, you've heard the cries of the Kenyan people. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now call my lawyer, the Honorable Dr. Haminwa, to give the balance of my minutes. Asanteni sana, Mungu ambariki.
Honorable members of the Select Committee, I feel really privileged to appear before you. It is a great honor.
Point of order by Honorable Moses.
When you were speaking from there, we were having difficulties to hear you. But again, it's there. We are still experiencing the same. We will get you well.
Okay, I'll speak loudly. I'm sorry. Your ears may be like mine. I'll try to speak loudly. Honorable select members, it's a great privilege to me to appear before you, particularly at my age. Last time I appeared in this matter of this kind was when we were handling Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Golden Park. This was set up by the then President, Mwai Kibaki, and I had the honor and the privilege of being the lead counsel in that particular case. I thank the Honorable Member Wanani Wamboka for nominating me to appear for him in this matter. The matter you have before you is in some respects very substantially similar to the matter we had in Golden Park. Honorable members of the Select Committee, we have always had a problem in this country since we got independence. And the problem is of what I term, and some academicians term, portfolio corruption. Individuals who have been given portfolios and they are corrupt. The word corrupt here does not necessarily mean one taking money, but one not being responsible in his job or the job that he has been given by the president or by the state. This is the case we have in this before you today. What is important to look at is perception. Perception is important. Strictly speaking, in this case, one does not have to need evidence at all. It is a case that can be determined on perception. Honorable Linturi was given a high office of being Minister for Agriculture. If I may say so, this is perhaps the most powerful ministry in the government, which is supposed to take care of issues of poverty that we have in the country. He was responsible. He cannot turn around and say that I was not. He was responsible. And what I want to say to you, honorable members of the Select Committee, you must not try to determine this case on the technicalities. If you do so, you will be letting down Kenyans. I appear in the courts. Courts have got their own limitations. They have to go strictly by the law of evidence. Fortunately, before you, the law of evidence is not be all. You are quasi-judicial organ, and you are expected to look at this matter in a much broader manner than courts would do. Courts are technical, but you are not. You can decide to go a little bit. If not, look at the whole thing and see that is so and so guilty according to perception. And that's why Wanana Wamboki, the one who was instructing me, brought this matter before you as representatives of the people to look at the matter very, very broadly. There is a concept prevailing in academic circles or in books and so on called state capture. This country is under state capture because of corruption. And the corruption can only be minimized, can only be swept under the carpet if Parliament rises to the occasion. Courts may make a contribution, but they are controlled by technicalities, the law of evidence. This noble house is not controlled by technicalities at all. Let us go by perception. Let us look at the matter in this very broad manner and find out whether we can get a solution for the country. As politicians sometimes say, let us find out what Mama Mboga would say about this. And indeed, if you go and carry out a census to find out what Mama Mboga would say, Mama Mboga would say, Honorable Linturi should have resigned long time ago as a matter of principle. He should not continue to be a minister in charge of agriculture at all. I urge you very respectfully, let us move on with those few remarks. Let us move on as quickly as possible and go back to do some work. If I may borrow the words that my client has used. Mr. Linturi, you would have done us great honor by resigning. You would have set a big precedent, and you would have gone down in history as a big man. Thank you. I have my Senior Assistant Lady Asha, who would like to say a few words, please allow her to say something. Thank you.
We allow her because you still have some time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, may I say you have been very kind to me. I thank you sincerely.
Thank you, members of this honorable committee, colleagues, and mine is to say that today is an important day in this country. This committee will set a precedence for this nation. This committee, honorable committee, will set a precedence in this country. The matter before us is not about the CS individually, but it's a collective issue that touches each and every Kenyan. The minister, as per even his documents, has mandate before the law, and one of the functions of the CS, just to highlight, is to appoint board members of public institutions. It is important throughout this hearing we will also highlight how that was not done despite it being his mandate. As we continue with the hearing, you will realize from the bundle of documents that there is a Fertilizer and Foodstuff Act that is Cap 345. The minister has duties directly to appoint a board. Honorable members, I request that we look at this matter holistically and we do not tie down this matter to a witch hunt as has been alleged. The minister was responsible to appoint the board. The board, as you can see, we will tabulate that as per the Act, is mainly to do the job of procuring, distribution, but specifically the issue of subsidized fertilizer. The minute the CS did not do that mandate that Kenyans, their constitution and the acts of parliament gave to him, he actually saved Kenya. He actually put Kenyans in the situation we are in. It is important to note that as a result of that, there are various violations that arose from that act that he did not commit. Mine is to request this honorable committee to look at the matters before you in a holistic manner. Remember, there are Kenyans who are affected by this. This is a matter of national interest, and I thank the committee because there were rulings also from the previous Speaker Marende on issues on public interest matters in terms of technicalities. Again, I would request that we not only limit ourselves to looking at things that do not touch the subject matter of fake fertilizer, because that is the reason we are basically here. It's not that the mover of the motion woke up one morning and said, I want to impeach the Honorable Mithika Linturi. The basis of this is that as a public interest matter, there are Kenyans out there who have the fake fertilizer, and it is in public knowledge. So today before you, we want to stipulate what the CS has done in regards to the issue of fake fertilizer and stipulate the gross misconduct because we are guided by the Constitution. So I humbly request that this honorable committee does not look at it from one angle. The issue here, let's not have diversion in terms of the nitty-gritty, but more importantly, let us highlight the issue of fake fertilizer that makes a great impact to this nation because it affects the socio-economic rights, which is also an inherent right in the Constitution of Kenya. There are farmers out there who have not been able to have their produce, who have not been able to plant, and that had ripple effect not only to the farmer and the family, but to the economy and food security. So I would wish the committee to consider this thing holistically and look at the aspects that it touches. It's not about a witch hunt, about the CS. As Kenyans, we want to come to the bottom of this because food security is important to all of us. If there is food shortage, it affects all of us. Therefore, I request humbly and with humility that the committee gives us the time, just like they will give the Honorable Mithika Linturi time, to be able to table issues that touch the issue of fake fertilizer and the omission of the CS from his duties that resulted to what we are facing as a country. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you.
My lady, I wholly adopt what my able-learned friend, Lady Asha, has said to you. And I reiterate very politely and very respectfully, let Honorable Linturi, Cabinet Secretary, go. He is not fit to continue to be in office.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Honorable Wamboka.
Yeah, I still have some minutes.
Okay.
Honorable Chair, one of the key, a minister must be trusted because he represents God. What a minister sees,
We apologize.
Chair, a minister holds that office in trust. A minister must be trusted. A minister has a duty to give the right information to Kenyans. As we will be demonstrating, this minister, my good friend, the Honorable Mithika Linturi, on this case of fertilizer, he gave the Kenyan public information over the same subject, 4 versions. Initially, there was no fertilizer. There is no fake fertilizer. Initially, there's only 3,000 bad fertilizer on the market. But the minister went ahead to even tell Kenyans about soil moisturizer. Honestly, we shouldn't have reached here. We should not even be discussing this matter because Kenyans need to discuss the minister. Kenyans need the truth and nothing but the truth. As we will be demonstrating, this is not the first time we have scandals in that ministry. As part of the reasons why, if you go through a submission, the minister should be impeached. This is not the first scandal in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. We had the sugar scandal. Kenyans kept quiet. Someone had to speak, Madam Chair, about this. We have a lot of trust in this committee because as members of parliament, we are people's representatives. And the good thing, when I look around, composition of this committee, most of them are from agricultural zones. Most of them. Kenyans are watching us. I have absolute trust that we are going to get to the bottom of this. And if 149 was not enough, while the minister was waiting for 250, we shall give it. We shall give him. We shall give you, Mr. Minister. We shall give you. Because the mood in the country, the mood in the National Assembly, Madam Chair, is so sweet. It's so sweet that Kenyans are tired of such things. We have now higher cases of diseases. Some of them as a result of this. We are waiting for reports from medics. To what extent has the fertilizer affected humanity? Where I come from, Madam Chair, there's no maize anymore. We don't have it. I don't know what this government will do. I don't know. Even if Honorable Linturi were to remain, I don't know what he will do. I don't know what he will tell those people from Western, from the Rift Valley, from the highlands of Kenya, from central Kenya. I do not know, because we don't have food. Kenya is glaring at a catastrophe. Courtesy of an individual. Be the Yonah, be the biblical Yonah. When the ship was sinking, Madam Chair, when the ship was sinking, because of one person, Yonah opted to drop himself in the waters. It is a moral question, Honorable Minister, for the sake of Kenyan people. Whether, assuming this motion does not go through, assuming, how will you serve? Where will you go? Where will you discharge your mandate? Kenyans are bitter. Be the biblical Yonah, and we shall respect you. That's all we are asking, Madam Chair. Not that anyone hates the person of Mithika Linturi. No. As I said, he's my friend. His best friend and a lawyer, Gitonga. We share a social group called the Chairman's Lodge. He is my wakili, the man seated on his left. He is a family friend. I've been to his place when I was campaigning. These are the people who came to my home. So there is nothing personal. Nothing absolutely, Honorable Chair. Nothing personal. Nothing. In fact, we are saving him. We are saving him. Because how will you serve? How will you go to Bumula? How will you go to Ahero? How will you go to Mbere, Embu? How will you go to Kiambu? How will you go to the food basket of this country, Trans Nzoia? How? And as a minister, you must go. How? Those Kenyans will not allow you, because they are angry and not happy. They are angry. We support the president, William Ruto. We support him on this, the policy of food security. We support him. We support him. And at times politically, you know, politics at times is very tricky, Madam Chair. When someone has committed a crime, you go back to your people and say, I'm targeted. I'm targeted. And people start sending delegations. Oh, go. Enda sema mambo mzuri. Enda sema ukiguza Linturi umeguza Wameru. Hapana. Sio Wameru bwana. Wameru ni watu wazuri. Tuwaheshimu sana ndugu zetu Wameru. Hata Mithika ni mtu mzuri, lakini mambo haya yamefanyika kwa wizara yake. So we understand, and that is why we are helping the president. We are helping the president. It is the parliament, it's the National Assembly that has sat Honorable Linturi, as it were. It is not the president. I know the president's hands may be tied. Tafadhali ndugu zangu, tuwakilishe Wakenya. Wakenya wameumia na wanaendelea kuumia. Na wanaendelea kuumia. Na wanaendelea kuumia. That a minister can give 4 different versions of the same story, it is a disaster. A disaster. That a minister can go, as we will be proving to this house, to talk to someone else that, please, I need you to save my job, as it was given to the Agriculture Committee. Please take responsibility on my behalf. I will protect you. That is what we are discussing here. So what is it that you want to tell Kenyans? Someone else should come and shoulder your responsibility so that you protect him? But what about those farmers?
Honorable Amboka, you have 2 minutes.
Yes. In fact,
50 seconds.
I'm done. I'm just waiting for the time. What will you tell those farmers? What will you tell those farmers? Senior, you want to conclude?
Yes, I want to conclude.
Yeah, let you say something.
Again, my lady clerk, may I borrow some words from you? You mentioned something that touched me, that let us not trivialize national issues by bringing in love. I was reading a response that has been filed before the honorable members of the Select Committee, and the main defense appears to be that what is before Parliament of Kenya, National Parliament of Kenya, dealing with the grave national issues, is because of my ex-wife. My ex-wife is the one who is bringing trouble. Unbelievable. Unbelievable that you should trivialize a matter of national, international issue and say it's my ex-wife who's doing this. Let us not invoke mundane, primitive concepts of love, of tribalism, of religion. Those no longer make sense in Kenyan context at all. We are all nationals of Kenya. We are all concerned about Kenya. We want Kenya to move on and become like Singapore, become like Korea, the way those people came and lived in this country, studying the way that we are doing things that they were very much impressed. They have developed more than ourselves. And you have gone backwards because of corruption, portfolio corruption in the country. It is only Parliament that can save us. If it is marriage, we intermarry. I had a Kikuyu wife. Unfortunately, she died. I loved her. When she died, I cried. She was a good woman, Joyce. She became a judge. My son, the firstborn, unfortunately, is dead. He was married to a Meru lady. I never objected. She was a good daughter-in-law. So these things of invoking tribalism, invoking love and so on, must cease. And you as Parliament, you must rise to the occasion and tell people like Linturi, go, we have had enough of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Honorable Wamboka, please provide us with the list of your witnesses so that the members can know the individuals who will be presenting you. As
Last one on the list.
please provide the list to our secretariat and we will proceed.
We have supplied a bundle, this bundle that is supplied to the whole committee, part of the committee. The list is at page 193 of the bundle. It consists of a list of documents and witnesses.
Thank you.
Yes.
I take this opportunity now to welcome CS.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members. My name is Muthomi Diankolu. I'll be making the opening statement on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary. I'll do 30 minutes, and my colleague, Mr. Mawire, will do 10 minutes. Unfortunately, sometimes my eyes is challenged, so I don't mind, Chair, if you interrupt me at the 30-minute mark so that I'm aware, because I might not be able to see the screen as clearly as I should. Honorable Chair and members, we have been wondering, and we have read and read this motion with a lot of keenness, and we've been left wondering why we are here. Of course, we know the simple answer is that there is a motion before the House, and it was sent to this committee to investigate. Here is why we've been wondering, Honorable Chair, why we're here. The motion before you has 3 allegations. Allegation number 1 relates to the Constitution. Allegation number 2 relates to alleged crimes at the national law, which unfortunately the evidence given is evidence that arises from personal cases about love and affection. And unfortunately, to the extent, unless that allegation is dropped, allegation number 2, we have to confront it. And if, as I will show you shortly, it is about love and affection and personal matters, then unfortunately we must confront it, even though it is sad that a committee like this would have its time being spent on such a matter. And number 3, we are here because it is alleged that the Honorable Linturi is guilty of gross misconduct. Honorable Chair and members, for you to uphold this motion, you must be satisfied on the material that will be presented by both sides that the Honorable Linturi has committed a gross violation of the Constitution, number 1. 2, that there are serious reasons, not frivolous reasons, not reasons tied to unrequited love and affection, that warrant a belief he has committed a serious crime under national law. And of course, you must be persuaded that there is an act or omission, a specific act or omission on the part of the Honorable Linturi that constitutes any of these 3 things, either a gross violation of the Constitution or a crime under national law or gross misconduct. We have, in our response, Honorable Chair and members, that we filed yesterday, presented before you a decision of the Supreme Court under Annexure number 7 in our BADO, specifically on pages 132 and page 190 to be more precise, on what the Apex Land Court in our land has said is the threshold that must be satisfied when you're seeking to remove a state officer from office for allegations such as the one before you. And when you read it, I will invite you to note that 1, there must be a specific act, a specific omission attributable to the Cabinet Secretary that is in question. I use the word specific, not nebulous and broad and vague and amorphous. Number 2, that act or omission which you must be satisfied has been committed, there must be a nexus between it and the Cabinet Secretary, which is to say, contrary to some of the submissions I've had, it is not a matter where you say, some guy must be hanged for this, somebody must be crucified for this. No. The Supreme Court has said there must be a nexus, a link between the Cabinet Secretary and the matter in question. I want you to note, it also has certain evidential thresholds. It is very easy to allege things. Proving things is where things become a bit more serious. And the Supreme Court has said stated in flyer number 7 of our Bado. The linchpin of this case before you, Honorable Chair and members, is quote unquote that the Honorable Linturi approved the procurement and distribution of fake fertilizer. So for you to uphold this motion, you must be shown by way of evidence, not nice English, not high-sounding political speech, that the Honorable Linturi, quote unquote, approved. Cabinet secretaries make their approvals in writing. That's what our constitution requires. We'll be interested to be shown the approval in question. Because without that approval, then the allegation must fall on its face. We will be urging you when we get there, Chair, to ask yourself whether, as a matter of law and fact, two things, law and fact, whether the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture or indeed any other Cabinet Secretary is allowed, as a matter of law or fact, to approve procurement decisions, whether as a matter of fact the Honorable Linturi approved or in any other way engaged in any act or omission that can warrant the accusation that he approved the procurement of fake fertilizer. When we get there, Chair, we'll urge you to read document number 3 in our Bado, and document number 10, and document number 21 in our Bado. And we'll be urging you to check and to find that when you read those documents, one, it is clear that the NCPB is a semi-autonomous government agency with its own board, with its own bureaucracy that is legally and factually immunized from ministerial control of the type that is alleged before you. We invite you to note, because the allegation is one of approving procurement of fake fertilizer, we'll be inviting you to note from document number 3 and document number 10 and document number 21 that there was no tender document for procurement of fake fertilizer. On the contrary, on the record before you, the procurement in question was quote unquote to procure fertilizer that meets the standards set by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. You will know from those documents that the accused person before you even took steps, as per the document number 21, to remind that semi-autonomous government agency that they had to procure fertilizer that meets the specifications and standards set by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Chair, this brings me to allegation number 2, which I said it is sad, we may want to wish days away. Allegation number 2 tells you that there are serious grounds for believing the Honorable Linturi has committed a crime under national law. What is the material that has been placed before you at pages 15 to 17 in support of that allegation? I mean page 15 to 17 of the motion before you. It is a list given there of court cases between the Honorable Linturi and the Honorable Member for Aldai constituency, which in the mover's own words, these are not my words, they are personal, civil, family, and commercial disputes. So it is not as Honorable Chair that I brought a matter of love, affection, and passion of a debt before you. It is ground 2 of the allegation on the record. All those 12, 15 or so cases cited there are personal disputes between the Honorable Linturi and the Honorable Member for Aldai constituency. And when we get there, the million-dollar question is, if this is not a trivial matter of love gone sour, how did the mover of the motion use material of personal family disputes as the core basis upon which an entire allegation number 2 of his motion is based? But more importantly, when we get there, Honorable Chair, we have produced before you 9 decisions of various courts, ranging from the Court of Appeal, going to the High Court, going to the magistracy, about all those so-called personal, family, and commercial disputes that form the anchorage for Ground 2. And when you read the judgments and rulings and orders we have placed in document number 11 all the way to 19, the common denominator is that the courts have ruled all those disputes in favor of the Honorable Linturi. So the million-dollar question, Honorable Chair, yes, let's assume a motion like this can be based on personal court disputes. Does it mean if someone loses court cases, they have lost at the Court of Appeal, which is the highest court on those matters, they can't go to the Supreme Court? They have lost at the High Court. They have lost at the Employment and at the Environment and Land Court. They have lost before all the magistrates of this republic, sitting in different court stations. How can it then material that the courts have ruled in favor of the Honorable Linturi form the basis for Ground 2 of the allegation before you? You have been told because, again under Ground 2, because of those family cases, the Honorable Linturi is facing an imminent arrest, imminent prosecution, and whatever. We have already placed before you a letter from DCI, of course flowing from the countless victories the courts have given Honorable Linturi, in which the DCI says they have investigated those matters and they have forwarded the file to the DPP. The DPP has reviewed all those files and advised, quote, unquote, they be closed with no further police action. So it is up to you. Who do you believe? Is it the DCI who has written, confirming, and he didn't write yesterday? It was way back last year, more than a year ago. Who do you believe? We will be submitting before you, Honorable Chair, that this mover of this motion is a proxy, and specifically a proxy of the Honorable Member for...
Chair, kindly, there are some words that we shouldn't allow to be. Let me just explain what describe somebody's proxy.
Honorable Omanyo, say your point of order.
I think we should use a language that is acceptable and not describe anyone in a manner that degrades them.
So that we don't waste time, I'm happy to withdraw the word proxy, Chair. I would also suggest when the interjection my clock be stopped because they eat on the time. So I will rephrase, Honorable Chair, and say that the real mover of this motion before you is the Honorable Member for Aldai. We shall play before you when we get there video evidence, specifically video number 4, that confirms that. We shall invite you to look at all the cases that form the basis of ground number 2, of allegation number 2. They are all cases between the Honorable Linturi and the Honorable Member for Aldai. We will be asking you to look at page 252 on document number 10 of our BADO, which will confirm to you that this allegation is actually a lie. And it confirms the DCI, the ODPP, closed all these matters with a formal recommendation for no further police action on the 31st of May last year. And then, of course, we will be asking you, Honorable Chair, when we get there, all these so-called family, criminal, civil, and family and commercial disputes, they were matters that the House considered when it approved the Honorable Linturi. Is this motion seeking to reopen a decision already the House made to the extent that it has agreed two of the motion? Is it seeking to reopen a matter the House considered, cases it considered, allegations it considered, and nonetheless approved? And when we get there, we'll be humbly suggesting to you, it is not possible. A cabinet secretary cannot be removed from office on account of matters that the House already considered in making the decision to approve the appointment. And while on that matter, Honorable Chair will also be telling you, all those family law disputes anyway revolve around acts and omissions that took place or allegedly took place before the appointment of the Honorable Linturi as a cabinet secretary. So again, the question will be asking you, does Article 152 of our Constitution provide for removal for conduct while in office, or does it provide for removal for conduct prior to assuming office? And of course, when we get there, our submission will be for matters that allegedly happened before appointment. Those are matters that belong to the committee that vetted the Honorable Linturi. And on the record, because there is a house of record, it should be clear from your answer that those matters were indeed, as a matter of fact, considered by the House. Allegation 3, Honorable Chair and members, is the one we found quite interesting. It claims the Honorable Linturi should be removed from office for two things. Well, they still mention the personal love issues, but two additional things. They say one of them is the Honorable Linturi was involved in a spat with journalists. And because he was involved in a spat with journalists, the President should dismiss him by resolution of the House. Number two, it says the Honorable Linturi stormed some factory and ordered its closure. What is interesting about this allegation is the evidence given in support of it. It is a letter supposedly authored by Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi and a press statement. I repeat, Honorable Chair, a press statement. That's the evidence. Not by the journalist supposedly assaulted by the Honorable Linturi, but by the President of the Law Society of Kenya, who is not a journalist, who does not claim to have been present at the time when the so-called spat occurred, and will be trying to tell you it is all hearsay on the back of hearsay, and when we get there, we'll be, of course, telling you why hearsay cannot justify the making of allegations such as the ones before you. When we get there, Honorable Chair, we'll be asking you, can a resolution under Article 152 be approved on account of acts and omissions of third parties? In this case, the acts and omissions of the government bureaucrats at the NCPB. Or must there be an excess, as we were told by the Supreme Court? We have attached, we will urge you when we get there to look.
Order by Honorable Manu.
The Council for CS Linturi has mentioned quite in an extensive way about ex-wives abroad. I think if we must play the video, if that ex-wife is alive and can help people who can also talk for themselves, it's fair.
We'll get there on
Council, you can proceed.
The ex-wife is very much alive. The lady, I do conduct ladies, I do talk to ladies in evening. I talked to her last night. She's very much alive. After reading the response that has been filed in the court, I said to her that, look, I understand you have one child with the Honorable Linturi. She said, no, I never had a child with that person.
Senior Council, you did your part, but you have given us a good break of laughter.
The way all this is eating into my time, I hope that will be calibrated accordingly. But Chair, I was about to tell you that the person I have come to represent here is a man who has held many state offices in which he has served with honor and distinction. We have particularized that in paragraph 2 of our affidavit. The man I represent, contrary now to the calumny writ large in our press and other fora, has actually had very impressive performance as a cabinet secretary, recognized not by himself, not by his ministry, but indeed by independent agencies of state that are not under his control and direction. And to that extent, when we get there, we will show you a document, I believe number 4 in our response, from the Central Bank of Kenya. And I think even the haters of Linturi will agree, Honorable Chair, that the Central Bank of Kenya is one of our most credible public institutions. So if such an institution tells you Linturi has achieved phenomenal success as a cabinet secretary for agriculture, it must count for something. You may not need to buy it entirely, but it must surely count for something. The man I've come to represent here, Honorable Chair, unfortunately, has been the victim between 2018 and 2022 for a 5-year period of a state-sponsored public shaming, public vilification, public defamation campaign. We are mentioning this, Chair, because as human beings there is a tendency sometimes to say it is that bad guy again. The Honorable Linturi, of course, as you'll find in his response about this issue, is that this campaign was sponsored by the previous administration, which again latched onto the personal, commercial, family disputes. So that at every TV broadcast for those 5 years, at every possible newspaper headline, at every possible FM radio show, it was always Linturi the bad guy. And specifically, I represent a man who has been painted to the world as an incorrigible womanizer, criminal, fraudster, thug, scoundrel. You can call it whatever. I represent a man who, unfortunately, for lack of a better word, Honorable Chair, is the dog that has been given a bad name. But we must tell the move of this motion, we don't dismiss people from state office because they have a bad reputation, especially when that reputation is an artificial creation of a previous administration that was only doing this to punish the Honorable Linturi for supporting the candidature of the Honorable William RUTO as President of the Republic of Kenya, as opposed to the other candidature that the administration then in place preferred. What I'm trying to tell you, Honorable Chair.
Chair. May I say something?
Chair.
May I raise an objection?
Right. I'll allow it.
Senior Counsel, just a minute. Honorable Fajwa.
No, on account of this age, you can go first.
Senior Counsel.
May I say, I'm most grateful to my and friends that they acknowledge as being a virtue. Now, may I say this to my able and friend? We must move from this culture, which was started in kind days, of keeping on mentioning the head of state in proceedings in order to get sympathy, appreciation, and respect. His Excellency RUTO is not a party to these proceedings. We do not mention his name at all, so that we impress anybody. Let us move from this culture of moving of mentioning head of state. You don't get such a thing in England, where people are mentioning the Queen in the proceedings or the Prime Minister in the proceedings and so on. Nobody has done anything against Linturi because he was not friendly to the previous regime headed by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, or because he is close to His Excellency William Ruto. Let us keep out and mention names of heads of state.
Thank you, Senator. So, Honorable Bajo.
Well, I think we need to be relevant. Even in open submissions, you must be relevant to the facts in issue. Those facts are fake fertilizer, and the ones you call love and affliction or whatever they are. To get into politics will be getting out of the rail, and many of these members know how to play politics than people on your side. So just come back to what is relevant and prosecute your case and finish it.
Honorable Chair, I'm guided, Honorable Chair, just for the record, I'm not saying this because it is irrelevant. Every legal dispute has a context in which it arises. And if you just allow me to finish, it will be clear why I'm mentioning this. And specifically so that we don't waste more time. All I'm trying to say, Honorable Chair, is that it is humanly possible for us to fall into the trick of saying it is that notorious Linturi. If there are serious allegations about him, they are made because they are true. And that's the only danger that I'm warning the committee about. That is the only context in which I tell you, because it is public knowledge, that the man I represent was a victim of that public shaming, public vilification campaign on TV, on whatever. I am here to humbly tell you, Honorable Chair.
I'm afraid that the member has no power to warn the committee. Yeah, that's what he said. I'm warning this committee. It is not within its power.
It's a legal term, Chair. I think my colleague, when we say warning, it's not in the ordinary sense of the word. It is in the sense used to direct juries about the dangers of prejudice and the dangers of bias. So it is not a warning. Of course, Honorable Linturi has no capacity to warn anyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a term of art and it's a legal term. I think my colleague doesn't know.
Thank you. You have educated those who are jealous, and
May I say something? Let us not forget, with a serious tone, let us not forget, he has told this select committee that he finds relevant. So when he uses the word warn, he knows what he's talking about.
Thank you. The honorable members are here.
Honorable Chair, with all the interjections now, I don't know how much of my time has been spent in the... I will ask...
We will take care of that.
Okay.
We will take care of that.
Okay.
We have taken note of what you have said. Thank you.
Much obliged. So, Chair, I was saying that when you sit as a judge, because this committee is sitting as judges, the practice in the legal world, and luckily there are many legal minds in your committee, is always to one of the dangers of putting in your mind, oh, he's that bad guy. And because he's that bad guy, he must be guilty. The allegations must be true. That's all I'm doing by giving you that context. And I must also tell you, Honorable Chair, we must be dangerous of the crucify him approach to a matter like the one before you. In the Christian Gospels, we were taught, because the mobs were baying for blood, crucify him, crucify him. He's a bad guy, therefore, and I'm saying again, it is easy for you to be told cries of farmers, cries of victims. And of course, we are not here to trivialize. Farmers have suffered in this matter. No one can deny that with a straight face. What happened is as unfortunate as it can get. But that would not justify a lynching or a crucify him approach to the matter before you. That is why under the Constitution, Chair, you are to investigate. Your duty is not just to roll heads, to serve somebody's head in a platter so that the masses can stop saying crucify him. We are baying for blood. Honorable Chair.
Let us be honest. Let us not waste the time of the committee. We are doing so, I'm sorry. Linturi himself has said very loudly that the farmers who received this fake fertilizer will be compensated. He has said so very loudly.
Honorable Chair, I will seek your protection because I now believe there is a strategy to interject so that my thoughts don't flow. I never talked when they were talking. For a whole 40 minutes, there were many things they said that I had issues with.
Council, we are aware of all this, and Senior Council, you had your time, and if we keep interjecting, then you will interfere with this time. We are already, we will add some more time as a result of what we are doing. Kindly be patient because you have 40 minutes.
Thank you very much. But only one sentence.
Yes.
He did not interject because we were talking sense.
We will leave that to the committee, Honorable Chair.
I think what we had, the Senior Council, Amimwa, and Barbara here, give you time to finish because when you're also raising the issues, we kept quiet. Because I remember at one point, the mover got to perfect minister. And we didn't raise it. So let us allow you to proceed the way we allowed also.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have already said that.
Honorable Chair, the member is supposed to be neutral. So he's saying we didn't. I thought they are supposed to be the ones to say we did. He is supposed to be a neutral arbiter in this thing unless he declares his
we are a neutral team.
Chair,
yes.
He said we parliamentary language. We didn't interject.
He is referring to us as parliamentary committee, and we meant all of us. So please let us not do a lot of interjection because that will consume a lot of his time and also interfere with the flow of his presentation. Thank you. You can resume.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And I was saying it is because of these dangers of bias, prejudice, that our law forbids the use of character evidence, disposition evidence, similar fact evidence. Basically, all I'm saying is that this matter is not one in which we can judge Linturi for his so-called reputation. I now come to the mandate of this committee, Honorable Chair, as directed by the Speaker. The Speaker said these proceedings are quasi-judicial and they have to be characterized by heightened degrees of conscientiousness, fairness, transparency, and whatnot. My understanding, Chair, of which I could be wrong, is that this committee is sitting as judges. You're not sitting in this committee in your capacity as members of the National Assembly. You're not sitting in this committee as representatives of whatever political formation.
I think we know our role. Can we focus on what brought us here? Fake fertilizer.
Honorable
Again,
Thank
you very much, Honorable Member. Thank you very much.
Please, there is a lot of interference.
Yes, but our roles, we know our role.
Can we listen to him first, and then we will make our judgment?
Point of order, Chair. I think let's go back to the basics. That for the opening remarks, somebody should not be interrupted. I think that is the basics of any
That's what I'm trying to
It's
say.
unfortunate we allowed it, but I think, Chair, you need to assert that for opening remarks, there are no interruptions whatsoever. Period.
And I wonder why we are getting emotional. Please let us be patient, let us listen, let us not jump and make conclusions. And we were very fair with Honorable Wamboka and his team. So I don't see why we should, always interject when the council is presenting. Please let us be patient and give him the remaining time, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was to say you sit in this committee as judges, and the only point I wanted to highlight in this, of all the things human beings do, Honorable Chair, of all the offices human beings occupy, it is only in the office of judge that a human being takes the position of God to pass judgment on another human being. The other things we do are temporal. The administration of justice is something divine because it elevates the human being making that decision to the level of God. That is why our Constitution in the third schedule, Honorable Chair, says justice is to be administered, quote unquote, without any fear, favor, affection, bias, ill will, prejudice, or any political, religious, or other influence. I'm humbly submitting to you that this is the applicable constitutional threshold. That oath of office for judges is the applicable constitutional threshold for resolving the matter before you. I'm here to very humbly tell you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that justice is a two-sided coin. A coin has two sides. There must be justice for farmers, but there must also be justice for the Honorable Linturi. An injustice to Honorable Linturi cannot be justice to farmers, just like an injustice to farmers cannot be justice to Honorable Linturi. And your duty as a select committee, therefore, is to inquire into this matter using that constitutional threshold that I've just alluded to, and to decide this matter as judges without fear, favor, and all those other things that I mentioned. When you see the motion before you, there is not a single act by Linturi, there is not a single act or omission disclosed on his part. On the contrary, what is before you are alleged acts of third parties. We have placed before you in document number 2 and in document number 21 evidence that shows that Linturi is not guilty of these allegations. We are here to tell you, when we get there, Honorable Chair, that this motion seeks to punish a single CS for what is the official policy of the government of Kenya. The fertilizer subsidy program is officially part of the program of the Kenya Kwanza government. The motion itself concedes this, and in fact it states in black and white that this program, this policy, was part of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and it was even put to the voters in the election. How is it, therefore, Honorable Chair, that if those are the facts as pleaded by the mover, we now isolate one cabinet secretary for what is considered in the motion to be part of the official government policy, and say this is the cabinet secretary who is liable for whatever went wrong with this policy? We will be asking you to check that the whole of ground 2, as I said, is matters that predate the appointment. We'll be urging you, when we get there, to note that the mover has lied. L-I-E, Honorable Chair. They have misrepresented one of the many family and commercial and whatever disputes in which he tells you that the Honorable Justice Ongundi condemned Linturi and found him guilty of some things here and there. On the contrary, because we have produced that document before you, that judgment, we will invite you to read it. It is, I believe, at page 228 of our Badu, to ask yourself, is it true? And are we going to believe a mover who has the audacity to even lie to you on a document that is in the motion in black and white? He tells you this is what the judge decided. It's there. That's not what the judge decided. On the contrary, that ruling upheld the complaint that the Honorable Linturi addressed about the persecution by the previous administration, about the previous administration latching on to personal, family law and love matters to convert them into a tool for negative media campaign, as a tool for criminal arrest, as a tool for other forms of state-sponsored oppression. We will invite you to note at page 252, document number 10, that the matters were closed, as I told you. We will invite you through documents number 11 to 19, as I said, to note the courts, and I mentioned them, all of them, sitting in various stations, ruled in favor of Linturi. How can that material now, in which the courts ruled in favor of the Honorable Linturi, be the reason we are here? And lastly, Chair, so that I'll give my waiter at least 10 minutes, I want to come back to judging, because you're sitting here as judges, and I said judging is the only human enterprise where human beings take the seat of God and pass verdict on whether the behavior of other human beings is sinful, is criminal, is moral or immoral, and whatnot. And because it is something where we take the position of God by passing judgment, I am to reflect and ask myself, what does God teach us? Unfortunately, I'm not a religious man, and my interaction with religious texts, Honorable Chair, is sporadic and disjointed. But I tried the most I can to ask myself, what does, if we agree that judging, which is what you're doing, is the only activity in which we take the place of God? And I asked myself, from Islam, what do we learn? Because the dominant religions in Kenya are Islam and Christianity. In Islam, I checked one of the hadiths, Hadith 3566. The hadiths, Honorable Chair, are recordings of conversations the Holy Prophet is believed to have had with various actors and passed on the divine revelations to him. So this particular hadith is about judging, and it says, if I may read, judges are of three types, one of whom will go to paradise and two to hell. The one who will go to paradise is a man who knows what is right and gives judgment accordingly. But a man who knows what is right and acts tyrannically in his judgment will go to hell. And a man who gives judgment for people when he is ignorant will go to hell. It's book 24 from, I think, Hadith 3566. You know, Chair, when I say you're acting in the place of God, because that's what the law permits you to do, if you doubt that you're actually in the place of God, the decision you make, there is no legal recourse against it, just like judgments passed by God. You know, the other judgments, we go in the lower courts and whatnot, you can appeal to the High Court, appeal to the Court of Appeal, appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. Yes.
I need to notify you that you have less than 9 minutes now, together with the time that you have added. You have added 5 more minutes because of the interruption.
Can I assume you will allow my friend the 10 minutes I had craved for? Unfortunately, all the interjections now sort of mumbled up my time consciousness.
Then that would mean you conclude and you allow...
Okay, just 1 minute I conclude, then my waiter will do 10 minutes, Honorable Chair. I asked myself, what we learn from the Holy Bible about judging, and we are told one of the things in Matthew 7 is, let's be slow to judge, lest the same measure be used to judge again, the same measure we use to judge others be used against us. We are told in another biblical text about judging the speck in your brother's eye and forgetting the log in your own eye. And why I ask this is the mover told you many things about the arrest of his spouse. And for me, the question is, where did he get the courage to move this motion when, as he was prosecuting it, his own spouse was defending herself in criminal proceedings for fraud? With those very many remarks, Chair, please allow me to call Mr. Mawira. And thank you very much for the time accorded to me.
Honorable Chair and the members, my name is Boniface Mawira. I will begin from what my learned senior Dr. Muthomi was alluding to, the issue of the judgment that the mover or the sponsor of this motion has referred to in allegation number 2. All these issues about love and affection. It is very unfortunate that as the Cabinet Secretary has to respond to these allegations, because from where we sit, they are really belittling of this committee, that this committee has to descend to that arena of love and affection. But because the Cabinet Secretary must respond, then we are compelled, Honorable Chair, to bring to your attention that there are 3 judgments, a judgment and 2 rulings. There are 3 judicial decisions by the courts of this republic that in all the 3 judgments, the courts, judges are found in favor of Honorable Linturi that all these allegations of uttering false documents, procuring execution of documents through false pretenses, allegations of forgery and fraud. These 3 different courts sitting in different stations in the republic are found in his favor. And they have held in the judgment of 30th November that the mover has referred to in his motion, specifically ground 2, that the allegations of forgery, the allegations of uttering false documents, procuring false execution of documents, all those allegations are untrue. And that is why we say, Honorable Chair and the members, that the mover has seriously mischaracterized the judgment of 30th of November 2021, which we have referred to in our response. Even more importantly, Honorable Chair, you will note that ground 1E, allegation 1E in the motion, it talks about alleged gross violation of Article 152 of the, Article 152, 5 to 10 of the Constitution. We submit in response, Honorable Chair, that those provisions of the Constitution are incapable of breach by a Cabinet Secretary. There is no duty imposed in law on the Cabinet Secretary by Article 152 of the Constitution. Article 152 of the Constitution merely talks about the powers of the President to appoint a Cabinet Secretary, and even the powers of this committee, or even the National Assembly at large, to dismiss in the event that a motion calling for the dismissal of our Cabinet Secretary is upheld. So there is no specific duty imposed in law for the Cabinet Secretary under that constitutional provision. So it must therefore be that that constitutional provision is incapable of breach by the Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Chair, all the judgments that have been that are referred to in the motion under allegation number 2 about serious reasons to believe that the CS has committed a crime under national and international law, all those judgments that relate to this love and affection, all these judgments and all these matters that are referred to, all those court cases, they predate his appointment as CS. These are matters that were disclosed to the committee on appointments during the vetting of the CS. And these are matters, therefore, that could not have arisen as a result of the performance or the execution of the duties of the CS. These are matters that were there before, and the Committee on Appointments considered them in approving his nomination. Honorable Chair, my learned senior Dr. Amino, in his opening statement, talked about the Evidence Act and the place of the Evidence Act in these proceedings. It is important that I make this clarification in order to not only to guide the committee, because we have made, in our response, we have made, in our response, Honorable Chair, there are documents that the mover in his motion has referred to, which we contend are inadmissible hearsay. And this committee, Honorable Chair, you will note, adopted rules on the 2nd of May of this year in its first sitting. And rule number 14 of those rules, Honorable Chair, says expressly that these rules shall complement the provisions of the Evidence Act. So it is not true, and in fact it is misleading for my learned senior to say that the provisions of the Evidence Act, specifically on the issue of inadmissible hearsay evidence, do not apply. This committee, in adopting its own rules, clarified and stated expressly that the provisions of the Evidence Act apply, and these rules merely complement, that is the language of the rules, they merely complement the Evidence Act. And therefore, it must be that those rules, especially on the admissibility of hearsay evidence, they must apply to these proceedings, Honorable Chair. There is another allegation, Honorable Chair, that the mover, in his opening statement, alluded to about Ugandan farmers sourcing and actually buying fertilizer. That is clearly meant for the Kenyan farmers. The subsidy program, Honorable Chair, you will note, for a farmer to be able to purchase fertilizer, they need to register on the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Management Information System, KIAMI system. And more than 4 million farmers have registered on that system. And the principal document for a farmer to be registered on the system is the ID card. So how is it possible then for a Ugandan farmer who is not Kenyan to acquire this fertilizer if they are not on the system? Because for you to get the fertilizer, you need to be registered on the system. Even more importantly, there is an e-voucher that is sent to your mobile phone number. So the ID is a principal document. And Ugandan farmers clearly do not have Kenyan ID cards. Honorable Chair, I think the last point for me is on the issue of evidential threshold, as my learned senior Dr. Mutembei alluded to. The Sonko case is clear that when it comes to matters of admissibility of evidence, inadmissible hearsay evidence would clearly fall short of the evidential threshold and the nexus that the Supreme Court stated is required before a resolution for removal of a state officer from office. And, Honorable Chair, I would just want this Honorable Committee to take note that let the committee, because we have had in other proceedings elsewhere, before the Senate, and specifically when the Senate was debating the impeachment bill that is currently before Senate, I personally had the majority leader of the Senate say that that bill is meant to cure or to remedy the problems that arose after Governor Sonko was unlawfully handed out of office. So let us not, Honorable Chair, fall for that mistake. My last point for me, Honorable Chair, is what my learned senior, and as we've been saying, the Honorable Member for Waldai is the real face behind this impeachment motion. And as my learned senior confirmed, he even met her yesterday evening. He met her yesterday evening and she was telling him she does not even have a child with the Honorable C.S. Linturi. Clear, what would be the motive for the council representing the sponsor to meet her if she is not the real face behind the motion? And the entire ground 2, all those allegations that point to these personal, family, civil, commercial disputes are between the CS and the member for Aldai constituency. So clearly she is the face behind this motion. And that is why we are saying this motion is actuated by malice and personal vendetta. Honorable
Honorable Manuel, please let us continue because it's just about to conclude.
I want to protect the lady in question. We are talking about Linturi, not the ex.
Thank you.
Honorable Manuel, the matter was brought by the sponsor of the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the protection. Honorable Chair, my last point for me is let us do justice. As my senior said, justice is a two-sided coin. And injustice to Linturi does not mean justice to the farmers. Justice for the farmers does not mean injustice to Linturi. Let justice be done to either party. And the CA sympathizes with the plight of Kenyan farmers. The farmers who are duped, they have suffered enough. But let justice be done for both parties. Thank you, Honorable Chair, and the Honorable Committee for listening to me.
Thank you for
Chairman, I don't know whether you will allow me one.
keeping time. Yes, 1 minute I will allow you.
Chairman, let me respectfully make a comment. I'm really not going to really know so much. I will what my friends are saying. Just want to mention.
Honorable Minister, Cabinet Minister, please go in front and use that.
Chair, as he's going there, on a light note, a CS Linturi is a chairperson. It is not chairman because our chair is the list.
Chairman, on a point of order, Chair. Chairman is a position. Can be a lady. And I'll tell you, there's a lady who was elected the chair of the Dorset Club. And she said, I will be called the chairman. That was Dr. Professor Yeko. And she remained as the, it doesn't have a gender orientation.
But she said on a light note.
I know man stands for both, but please, because of time, let us allow the Cabinet Minister to continue.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, let me appreciate what the committee is doing, because that's a constitutional responsibility to discharge. But I've inclined, just been felt that I must really say something, because Chair, whatever I've gone through for a number of years, and which is also manifesting itself here, is not anything I would want to wish any human being. It has been a long journey, very painful, and when I thought I'd gone through that kind of trauma, the motion is here with the same stories that I've been trying to fight over years. When Learned Council, Camino, tries to trivialize this matter, it pains me because it doesn't know how painful it is. Because, Chairman, there is no, in the history of the judicial system, nowhere, and this matter has ever been done or conducted live on TV. It was mine. And that was the reason when Dr. Mutembei tries to contextualize this story, then it's not taken seriously. Just like as mentioned, there is a judgment there by Ngundi, which clearly in a paragraph says that is what happened. When counsel for the mover accepts in before this committee that was called, I was having a discussion with the so-called, with the person that we are referring to as a proxy, one wonders what is it that was being discussed. So, members of this committee, I would want to say one time that as we look into this matter, let us really look at the matter on the basis of evidence and the fact. I am ready to defend myself, and I really know the pain that the number of farmers that or really interacted with the few bags of fertilizer, I really feel for them. And I've taken corrective measures from the ministry. Those people that we believe were culpable, I've already taken plea. And Chairman, I want to leave it at that, but it's very painful for me because when I took over the ministry, the country was in a crisis, didn't have food, we were trying to import food. We've produced 67 million bags within the first year. And when we are telling people going back to the farms, I thank the farmers that came to listen to us. I was shown Jahon, and because this is what I would call occupational hazard, because it comes with the job I'm doing. But remember, members, I sat on that side for 15 years. You may also cross to this side. So as you decide on this matter, please note do injustice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Members, we are done with opening statements from both the parties. Now we will proceed to evidence taking. Honorable Jack Wanami Wamboka, Member of Parliament for Bumula constituency, you have 4 hours. And I ask the clerk now to administer the oath because you are the first witness.
I'm sure you need a break or break.
Members are in agreement, 10 minutes, yes. And then we resume. Thank you.
The moment I feel my pain starting to fade, it's like I'm going back to myself on a really good day.
Panadol Extra releases you from strong pain. Panadol, release starts here.
Nimejaribu mafuta na sabuni nyingi, hazikusaidia kurelieve eczema, dryness, or my baby's sensitive skin. Tangu nigundue the new Nice and Lovely Baby Naturals wash. Ni soothing during bath time na haiwashi macho. Ngozi imebadilika kabisa. Thanks to Nice and Lovely Baby Naturals Jelly and Cream. Jionee mwenyewe. The power of 3-in-1 Jelly and Cream moisturizes, protects, and repairs. Chagua Nice and Lovely Baby Naturals. Approved by pediatricians and dermatologists.
our house.
Pack your things and get out.
I own nothing. Throw them all out. I never want to see you ever again.
Why don't I leave you two to talk
I
first?
don't want to listen to anything he says.
You helped me right when I needed it, so I'm here. I'm glad to be here. So just let me help you.
I wish I never met her, Isabella.
Unfortunately, there's no changing the past.
I know that.
Mbali tumetoka na bado tunasonga, kote tumeenea.
Celebrating 50 years of our past and inspiring our future, I&M Bank.
We will be tracking one stone
Does it resolve all the political issues that...
I found there's no coincidence in politics.
And I hope I can provoke you to think
This
about...
is a place where you don't play around.
This is